Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Now, moving ahead with the branches of psychology. Psychology has got different branches. Just the way we have science has different branches. We have biology, physics, chemistry, zoology, we have anatomy, botany, and so on and so forth. Similarly, psychology also has different branches, and every branch of psychology is catering to a different group of people, different opinions, and different expressions. The first branch of psychology that we have is the general psychology. Now, since the term general has come into the picture now, obviously what we are talking about is a vast or a wide area. General psychology deals with the fundamental, the most basic rules, principles, and the theories of psychology that will help us to study the behavior of normal human beings, adult human beings. So all the rules, all the principles, all the theories that are going to define an adult human being is what general psychology talks about. So there is nothing in specific, but a general perspective is taken into opinion. The second branch of psychology that we have is cognitive psychology. Now, as the name suggests, the word cognitive. Okay, so cognitive means something related to our brain. We all know that. Something which is related to how well our brain works, how well we are able to perceive things, how able our thinking skills, our reasoning skills, work. If, for example, we appear for multiple entrance tests, you people are in class 12, you are going to prepare very soon for your entrance tests also. Now, entrance test again, there are multiple topics and multiple subjects that you have to prepare for. There is data interpretation, there is quantitative aptitude, there is general awareness, there is logical reasoning, and so on and so forth. All these aspects are going to trigger just one part of your body, and that is your brain. Okay. So, cognitive psychology is that branch of psychology which is going to look into the mental process and, is going to decide the course of growth and development of the cognitive abilities and capabilities of a human being. It is going to look into, it is going to dwell into your mental processes and is thereby going to study what all growth and development has taken place or will take place in your capabilities, in your mind, in your cognitive abilities. Now, this branch of psychology, as I told you, is obviously going to use your mind, is going to analyze what is there in your mind, and most importantly, how you behave in the most difficult situations. Because as we say, it is very difficult to keep calm when you are in trouble. So, under difficult and challenging circumstances, how does our cognitive ability work? How strong we are able to keep our mind is what this branch of psychology studies. It is going to, again, as I told you, going to study about our attention spree, our memory, then our problem solving skills, our decision making skills, our language. All these things are taken care of by the cognitive psychology branch. So this branch of psychology is actually these days collaborating with the neuroscientists and the computer scientists, because they make use of brains in order to come up with something new. That is the usage of cognitive psychology. The next branch of psychology is biological psychology, as the name suggests, something which studies the relationship between the behavior and the physical system of the person. Biology. What is biology? Something that studies you, something that defines you, something that tells you about how the functioning of your body is going, how well your body functions, how well your body operates. So that branch of psychology, which is going to study the relationship between the behavior as well as the physical system. And now the physical system, when I talk about biology and the physical system, it talks about our brain. It talks about our nervous system. It talks about our immunity system. It talks about our genes. And therefore, this is going to establish a relationship between what is there inside us in terms of our body, in terms of our physiology and our behavior. And biological psychologists these days, again, as I told you, are very much in demand. They are very popular because the neuroscientists, the zoologists, the anthropologists, they all need them. They all are in a dire need of their expertise. They are in a dire need of their expert knowledge and their opinions. Then next we have neuropsychology. Now, who are neuropsychologists? The word in itself is going to give you an answer to the question. Neuro is something which again has got, a relation to our brains, right? So, those researchers which are studying the role of the transmitters or the chemical substances which are responsible for the neural communication that we have. We all know, for example, that inside our body, there is an entire structure. Okay, we have the central nervous system, we have the peripheral nervous system, and there are so many neurons, we have synapses, and we have all these the entire junction which exists inside us, which is responsible for transmitting things, which is responsible for transmitting messages to our brains, which in turn tells us how are we supposed to react in a given situation. So this neural communication, this transmitting of a signal to the brain and then brain telling us the right way of acting in that particular situation. So neuropsychology is that branch. It studies the role that these chemical substances that we have inside us play in the neural communication. And the techniques that we have these days, the MRI, the ECG, all these machines are making use of this technique only, as they are going to learn everything about your brain. They are going to extract the information about the brain, and that is why neuropsychology is so important, because it is our brain which is going to decide and which is going to guide us how to behave in what situation. Next, we have developmental psychology. Now, again, as I have told you, it is the word in itself which is going to give you an idea about the branch of psychology. Now, what is development? When I talk about development, a human being develops in multiple ways. There are physical changes that take place. Physically, we develop. Socially, we develop. We get better human beings. We learn how to talk to people more politely. There are psychological changes. We learn to keep our mind calm in the most difficult and harsh situation. And this development keeps on taking place with us at different ages and stages. Right? With every age we add to our life, there is some or the other development that will surely take place in us. when a child is born, so from the birth of a child to adolescent, and then, to youth, to old age, we pass multiple stages of development. And therefore, developmental psychology is that branch of psychology which is going to focus on all the factors that influence the intelligence, the cognitive abilities. We've just learned about what is cognitive abilities. It is how well you use your brain. So cognitive abilities, your emotions, your temperament, how well you are able to control your anger, your social relationship. So basically, developmental psychology is going to study the connection and the role that your biological aspect, your environment, what role is it playing in grooming you, in making you or helping you become a better human being. So that is what developmental psychology focuses on. Then we have child psychology. Again, child psychology is that branch of psychology which studies the behavior and the process that takes place in the growth and development of a child. Now, here comes the word growth and development, which are often misread and misunderstood by the people. Growth is something that can be measured. The increase in height, increase in weight, that is a part of growth, something that can be measured by us. On the other hand, development is something that is behavioral in nature, that is going to be affected in how we behave. So the changes that take place in terms of growth and development of a child. So from child till adolescence, all the changes that take place physically as well as behaviorally. So a child psychologist is going to study those changes. The next branch of psychology, we have adolescent psychology. Just like a child psychologist studies the growth and the development that takes place in a child until he or she attains adolescence, similarly, an adolescent psychologist studies and understands the process of growth and development during the adolescence of a child. What all changes take place in the child's personality? How has the behavior of the child who's now an adolescent become better? What are the problems that the adolescent is facing? We have all heard about the issues that the adolescents usually face. So what all issues, what all problems they are dealing with, and all these things are studied so that an adolescent, is able to be guided well. An adolescent psychologist aims at guiding a child, guiding an adolescent to be able to adjust to the changes that take place in the life with growing years. There are so many people who with growth in age actually become a little depressed and disheartened because of all the responsibilities that are endowed on them. So an adolescent psychologist helps them get through it comfortably and in a better manner. Next branch of psychology, we have social psychology. Now, social psychology, again, it is that branch of psychology wherein the psychologists study about the attitude, how much a person is obedient to the people who might give an order to him. They might be of some authority or they might even be of no authority to them. But how are they responding to the orders given by them? What kind of relationship they have with the other people? What kind of a behavior they carry, whether they are helpful or not helpful, whether they are prejudiced, whether there is some biasness, partiality which can be seen in their behavior, whether they are aggressive, whether they are motivated, and so on and so forth. So all these changes with respect to the behavioral pattern of a person is analyzed and studied by a social psychologist. Next, we have cross-cultural and cultural psychology. Now, cross-cultural, again, we understand. We all know that culture plays a very important role in our lives. We learn a lot of things from our culture. Okay, we've learned multiple things from our parents who are born and brought up in some particular culture, and then they transport the same thing to the children as well, and the children grow up with the same ideologies and opinions in their minds. How is a person going to react when he or she is to be is to adapt to a new culture? What all changes are going to come across? Whether the person will accept the new culture positively or would not be able to do anything at all, or the person is so rigid that he or she is not ready to leave behind his or her own culture and therefore would not be able to accept the new culture at all. So all these things are studied by whom? A cross-cultural and a cultural psychologist. Then we have health psychology, which is another branch of psychology. Who is a health psychologist? Somebody who examines the role that stress, anxiety, worries, tensions, all these feelings have in you. How are they going to impact you? Whether they are going to help you grow into a better person, or there are people who are dealing with stress and are not able to focus on anything. They are not able to cope up with some loss in life. So all those things are going to be taken care of a health psychologist, because at the end of the day, these negative changes that will take place are going to affect your health and are going to thereby affect your development process. And therefore, it is important for a health psychologist to learn and then to solve the problem from the root. Now, the next psychology that we have is physiological psychology. Now, what is physiology, first of all? Physiology is that branch which studies the mechanism of the living things. We all are living things, obviously. We all understand that inside our body there are multiple things which keep on taking place at all time of the day. Even when we are sleeping, our brain, our nervous system, our endocrine glands and every part of our body is working, is helping us grow, is helping us develop. So, physiological psychology is that branch of psychology which is going to describe the biological as well as the physiological basis of our behavior. How are we behaving? And whether our behavior is a reflection of what is going on inside us. At times, you all must have heard your mother saying, or even your grandmother saying, that if a little child is, disturbed in sleep and wakes up, the child is going to be very irritable. If somebody is hungry, that person is going to again behave in an irritable and annoying manner. So, not being able to sleep, being hungry, it is all something takes place inside us. But the effect of it can be seen in our behavior. So, a physiological psychologist is the one who establishes a relationship between them. Then we have clinical and counseling psychology. This is the most famous branch of psychology that we people come across these days. Whatever treatments, whatever psychological disorders, one is going through these days, anxiety, we have depression, we have sleeping disorders, eating disorders, we have been through some sort of an abuse, childhood was not that bright, maybe in our teenage we went through we went through something very disturbing, and that has affected us so deeply that we are not able to develop and function properly. So a clinical psychologist and a counseling psychologist is going to help us battle with it, is going to help us find a treatment for that, find a cause and a prevention for it. Counseling sessions, we all have heard about counselors. They are those people who are trained to listen to you and then provide you with a possible solution to your problem. This is how they help you to cope with a challenging or a difficult situation in life. And as I told you, this is the most famous branch of psychology these days, because every second person is going through a lot of problems, a lot of issues in one. Next, we have industrial or the organizational psychology. As the name suggests, industrial or the organization. So, this is that branch of psychology which is going to study the behavior of the people at their workplace. How do they behave in their workplace? These psychologists, these industrial and organizational psychologists are training the people, they train the employees, they help in improving the work condition of an organization so that the people find it comfortable to work there. They are the ones who actually define the different criteria for, selecting the employees. They are basically aiming at improving the work culture and the work environment so that the people who work are able to give the best output, to the firm. And if the people are giving their best, the firm obviously is going to benefit out of it. So this is the job of an industrial or an organizational psychologist. Next branch of psychology that we have is educational psychology. As the name suggests, educational psychology is that branch of psychology which is going to examine the learning of the people at different ages. How does our learning capability and capacity change with our age, with our growing years? That is the task of an educational psychologist. They make use of instructions, they make use of material, some books, some resource books in order to train people educationally also and also in their workplaces. And why do they do that? What is the aim of an educational psychologist? It wishes to improve all the aspects of a teaching learning process. It is going to focus on how well the learner is able to learn. What is the kind of material which is supplied to a learner that is going to, work as an aid? What is the kind of environment in which a learner is exposed to? How is the teacher taking up difficult topics? How is the teacher dealing with the difficult students in the class? So all these things are going to impact our learning. And this is what educational psychology aims. The last branch of psychology, the main branch of psychology, is sports psychology. Again, as the term in itself is suggestive of the fact that sports psychology is that branch of psychology which aims at enhancing the sports performances of the players. And how can we enhance somebody's performance? Anyone for that matter, be it a sportsman or not a sportsman. And the best thing that can help you grow is the motivation. The right amount of motivation, if it is given to people, the people can certainly grow. So, sports psychologists are those people who play a very important role in giving a proper environment to the sports people, in giving a proper work, a culture, setting up an entire culture for such people, giving them the required amount of motivation, making them exposed to the correct behavior, to the correct coaches, the correct techniques, the correct training, the correct auditorium, the correct sports equipments, all these things, so that with every stage they are learning and growing and giving the best of their shot. So these, my dear students, were the major branches of psychology that one can learn and is learning, and what do they aim at. So I'm going to pause here now, and in my next lecture I'm going to begin to teach you why is it important to have psychology in education. So how do we utilize psychology in education is what we shall learn in the next lecture. So I'll see you all now in my next video.